But if you never fail, you're not stretching, you're not trying hard enough.
The number one regrets of the dying.
So this is what they say. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself rather than what I felt was expected of me. One sentence, which is 8 words of 2 letters each word. And it's, if it is to be, it is up to me.
Up to me, yeah. Chris, my friend, welcome, Chris Baker. Everybody, welcome, Chris Baker. How you doing, Chris? Can you hear me?
Hey, yes, I can, Aaron. Thank you.
Good stuff. So, Chris, I'm going to get out of your way and just give you about 15 minutes to just probably do a deep dive on what you were talking about at the Thriving Through Crisis Summit, and then I'll get back in and we do a Q&A. Take it away.
Okay, perfect. So basically, at the thank you again, everybody, for having me back. It's great to be back. As Aaron said, I'm originally from England, from Leicester, and then on the south coast in the Bournemouth area. But I now live just outside of Orlando in Florida, where it is hot and humid most of the year. So, and it's great to come back and talk to you. And there's a few things I just want to cover that on this topic. And the topic that I talked about on the summit was unexpected ways to revive your career despite furlough. And really, hello, thanks for joining. Really, what I want to say is that it's really all about mindset. It's about having that positive attitude. It's about maximizing your potential every single day, and that's really what I'm big on. I started actually in my book 10 Steps to Freedom. I've got a quote that I created that I use at the front and at the end of the book, and I use it probably in most talks and topics that I do. And the quote is this, and it's a question. It's, are you happy living under the average limitations imposed on you by other people, or are you ready to rise to the greater expectations of your inner self? So when we look at that, what I understand and what I see, right from teenagers all the way through to retirement, is people are living under average limitations. They're living with limited beliefs that are basically, I'm saying they're imposed on them. They're ones that they've gone into their subconscious mind from other people. So as teenagers, we are products, well, we're all a product of our environment, but as teenagers, we're not taught how to think. We're just told what to think. We're told what to do. We're told what to learn. We become consumers so that we can pass exams and we can go to university or go and get a scholarship somewhere or just go into a career and start earning money. We're not taught to think for ourselves. We're not taught to follow our passion or even understand what our purpose is and create a vision and a dream. When we're younger than that, when we're 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, we've got wild dreams. We've got wild imaginations. We can create stories that are fantastic, right? But it goes in our teenage years. And so this is what I'm saying. Are you happy living under those average limitations? In other words, are you happy living the story that somebody else is choosing for you? Or are you ready to rise up to that greater expectation that resides in your inner self? Because I tell you that it's there all the time. All right, it's there. You have everything you need within you to develop, to grow, to be the person you want to become. And that's the thing now. It's about being that person now. So are you ready to rise up to the greater expectations of your inner self? I think you are, and that's why you're in this community. I'm sure you are. If you weren't, you wouldn't be listening to things about personal growth and development. Right? You'd be sitting watching Netflix or Sky TV and eating crisps on the couch. You're not doing that. So I think you're there. And so many people go through life, and it's what I call their drifting in life. You know, they're wondering, are they capable of doing more? They don't really know what they want to do. They think they've got too much to lose if they change direction. They're also afraid of failing because we're taught that failing is bad. Where actually failing is good. And I'll touch on that a little bit later. We're taught to worry about what other people will think of us. Well, who cares? Let me tell you, somebody else's opinion of you is none of your business. Somebody else's opinion of you should not dictate the path your life takes. It does not define you. And then the last thing is people don't know where to start. Well, again, that's why, you know, Aaron's brought this community up. That's why I do the things I do. That's why we're in our mastermind groups, because that lifts us up. Right? So again, you're in the right place. So step number one that I covered in the summit there was to understand your value. Bernard Hopkins said, if you don't know your value, somebody else will tell you your value, and it will be less than your worth. Right? So again, it ties in with that we're talking about, where other people's opinions of you will set the pattern of your life. You know, I touched on some statistics from the Gallup poll of the state of the workplace in 2017, where they said that only 15% of the workforce are actually actively engaged in the work they're doing. 66% are disengaged and 18% are actively disengaged. So being disengaged doesn't mean that you're not doing anything. It just means that you're turning up, you're going through the motions, right? You're on that perpetual hamster wheel. So what you need to do is determine what you want. You need to understand what your purpose is, what your passion is, what your strengths are. Charles Dietrich said today is the first day of the rest of your life. And our Aaron and my mentor and friend John Maxwell says that you can't go back and make a new beginning, but you can start today and make a new ending. So I have a 3-stage process that I use in my teaching and my coaching. It's called purpose, vision, and strategy. So the purpose is who you are. It's why you do what you do. It's the emotions, it's the feelings, it's all that deep inside that, again, we're not taught to think about that. We're not taught to share those feelings. Well, we need to reverse that trend. The vision is, where do you want to go? And I'll tell you this, if you have got no vision, if you've got no destination, one thing I can guarantee you with 100% certainty is you won't get there. Because if you don't know where you're going, if you don't know what your destination is, it could be right in front of your nose, and you won't know it because you don't know what you're looking for. And then the third stage, and it has to be the third stage, is the strategy. And that's how you're going to get there. Now, too many people get hung up about thinking 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line with what am I going to do in that time? Who knows, right? This time last year, did anyone predict that we would have been in 3 and 4 months of lockdown and quarantine? No. So if you're planning that far ahead, you're wasting your time. What you want to do is look at one step, right? You're putting one foot in front of the other. You're going one step at a time. And if you do that, you'll get towards it. Now, the key with this is harmony and alignment. And your purpose and your vision need to be aligned, and they need to be in harmony. And then each decision that you make, because you're faced with choices every single day, each decision that you make based on those choices has to align and be in harmony with your purpose and vision. If it's not, you'll end up going down a cul-de-sac. Often a tangent is what we call the shiny object syndrome. And then you wonder why you're not getting what you want. It's because you're making the wrong decisions. And here's the thing, the circumstances you find yourself in now are there as a consequence of the decisions you've made in the past. It's nobody else's fault. So we have to own that. Step 2 was to create desirable behaviors. Right? So once you know your purpose, once you know your vision, once you know your strategy, or once you plan your strategy, it's the behaviors. Too many people focus on results. Right? They say, I need to get this result, and that's what I'm working to. You know, my career in the UK was in car dealerships. I started as a salesman in '89 and worked my way through to being general manager of various franchises, and at one stage running 3 franchises. And the sales environment is very much results driven, right? It's focused on the results. Well, I reversed that trend when I was in those positions, and that's why I was so successful, because I said, okay, well, that's the results, that's the symptom. What's the cause? What's the source? So let's take it back. All right, you take it back, and it all starts with your behaviors, right? Because your behaviors create actions. Your actions form habits. And then those habits produce the results. So if your behaviors are bad, your actions will be bad, your habits will be bad, and your results will be bad. If you get good behaviors, it will produce good actions, in turn will produce good habits, and that will deliver good results. Right, so desirable behaviors are the things you really need to focus on. So what do you need to do daily that will take you towards your goal? What are those 3 to 5 tasks, those 3 to 4 behaviors that you need to do every day? You know, Aaron touched on it right at the start of this with the gratitude. You know, what are you grateful for every day? Think about that. Put it out there. Think about what you want. You know, when you ask people what they want from life, most people tell you what they don't want. Problem is that's the wrong attitude, right? That's the wrong type of behavior, the wrong thought process. You're thinking about what you don't want instead of thinking what you do. You need to learn to prioritize your tasks and then schedule your tasks as well. All right. Most people are not good at prioritizing and scheduling. All right. They're not. But you have to set that out. Right? But you have to know what you're looking to achieve and what's important to you to do that. And then there's 2 other things. One is remove all distractions while you're doing those tasks. And the last one is review your progress each day. Right? You have to review that progress, because if you don't know where you're going right, you don't know where you're going wrong. Now, too many people tell us where we're going wrong, right? Wrong, right? But that's the thing. They tell us where we're going wrong, don't they? All right, but what we need to do, and we also will look at that ourselves, we're our own biggest critic. We will say, I didn't do well there, I didn't do well there, I didn't do well there. You know, in the workplace, when people do reviews, when they do one-on-one sessions and so on, annual reviews, they spend more time telling you what you're not good at than they do what you're good at. Switch that round, right? Talk about all the things you're good at. Look at what you're good at. Why are you good at those? What is it about that produces the results? And then guess what? You can replicate that and duplicate that into other tasks to raise those tasks up. And to be honest, if there's something that you're truly not good at, then delegate it to somebody else. Or maybe you even just take it out of your life altogether. Because if it's not bringing you reward, if it's not taking you towards your end goal, then why are you doing it? Why are you wasting your time with it? And step number 3 is what I call reset. So it's spell the letter reset. So the R is for review. Right? So as I'm just saying here, that's review what is working, review what isn't working. What did you learn? Right? What did you learn today? So you guys, you're at sort of 8, but you're coming up 9 o'clock at night now, right? No, 8 o'clock at night. It's just coming up 3 o'clock in the afternoon here. So as you come off this call and as you sort of wind down for the evening, what did you learn today? Good and bad. What did you learn? And then what can you do about it? The E in reset, the first E, is to evaluate. Right? How relevant are your learnings? Does it really matter? Is it something that you need to change? Or was it just something that was outside of your control? And here's the thing I'll tell you with all of this, and this is why I don't suffer from stress, right? There's things you can control, there's things you can't control. The things you can control, you need to do something about it. The things you can't control, let it go. Right, over here at Disney, we say, do an Elsa, let it go. It's not important. Because if you can't control it, why are you stressing about it? You know, when I was in the UK, people used to stress about the weather. Well, guess what? It's going to be grey. It's going to be drizzly. Right? Yes, I know. I think you're having a heat wave at the moment, or you have been, but you can't control the weather. So don't stress about it. What can you control? And do something about that. The S is for strategize. What are your next steps? Right? Now, remember, notice I said next steps. I didn't say 3, 4, 5, 6 steps down there. It doesn't matter. And an example I use with this when I coach and train is a navigation system, a GPS. Think back to what you do. The first thing a GPS does is it knows where you're starting from. It's what we call the departure point. The next thing you do is you put in your destination. It's where you want to go. All right, so think about this. Your purpose, departure point, your vision is your destination. And then you press go. And what does it show you on your navigation system, on your GPS? It shows you the next turn. All right, so go down to the end of the street and turn right. And then when you turn right, it was okay, go down to the next street and you're going to turn left in a mile. It doesn't say in 10 miles, you're going to get to a roundabout and you need to take the 3rd exit. Because you're not there yet. It knows it in the background, but it doesn't tell you. All right. So what are your next steps? What do you need to do today? All right. Today is the only day you can actually make a difference, because yesterday's gone. Tomorrow isn't here yet. And when tomorrow does get here, what day is it? It's today. Right? So today is the only day you can make a difference. And then the T is for today. Right? Don't delay, act today. Too many people procrastinate. And procrastination is the killer of dreams. If you put something off, you're less and less likely to do it. The longer you put it off, the less likely you are to do it. And then you know what will happen is somebody else will do the thing that you wanted to do, have the idea that you wanted to have, and take action on it and produce it. And you're going to say, that was my idea. Yes, it was, but you didn't do anything with it. So therefore it's useless. So act today, right? Don't delay. Peter Dinklage said, don't bother telling the world what you are ready, show it and do it. All right, here's the thing that I know as well. I've just done a summit this weekend that we may talk about in a minute, but it was directed at teenagers and the parents of teenagers. And what we're talking about in there, one of the things we talked about is how parents will often tell their kids what to do, but they don't demonstrate those actions themselves. And what happens is people do what they see, not what you say. Right, so be careful. Are those two things in alignment? Are you setting the right example to your kids? If you're if you're a boss, a leader, a manager, are you setting the right example to your direct reports? If you're in a faith-based community, any community, are you displaying the right behaviors so that other people will follow you? Right? Or are you telling them what to do, but you're doing something else? All right, think about that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chris. It's always a pleasure to just listen to you and talk and how you put things together. I'll never forget when we met in New York and you know the signature program I was working on and how you just simply put it together. I struggled with it and you just did it in a few minutes. And it's always a good thing to just mastermind with you and just listen to the amount of wisdom that you bring. So let's go back to the beginning, from the very beginning. First, now, you worked previously in the UK, you lived, you're born and bred in the UK, and you actually worked your way up as a general manager within the automobile industry. I'd have thought that that's an amazing life. I mean, for anybody of that status here in the United Kingdom, and within the automobile industry, for that matter, that's new cars, that's good cars. Every I've got a neighbor around us here. He has a flashy new spanking car every single day. So I know he's working for an automobile industry. So you got to the top of the corporate ladder that everybody wants to get, and you got there successfully.
Yeah.
And you upped and left. What happened?
So here's the thing, Aaron. In my career, I'd always, and again, especially in the sales industry, you think that success brings happiness, right? You think that you're reaching those targets, you're reaching those pinnacles of positions will bring happiness. So the trouble was I was focusing everything on that job and on that happiness at my private life, right? And there wasn't that. Well, there's not a work-life balance, but there wasn't that focus. Like when I was even when I wasn't at work, my mind was at work, right? And I would end up putting too many hours in and trying to do things to socialize and get the sales team and all the other teams up and running, and it wasn't actually bringing me fulfillment. Yes, it was a great position, and you know I was offered director positions at the end, and even when I came over here, I was still getting offers from the UK to go back and take director positions. Wow. But the thing there is, again, when you think about it, think about what I said there is what I didn't know is what my purpose was. I didn't know what my passion was. I knew what I was good at because I was good at that sales and I was good at management. I was good at developing people, right? And I was good at getting results by focusing on the people, which is the heartbeat of every business, the customers and the employees. It's all people. But I didn't know the purpose and the passion, and so I wasn't happy, and that bled over into my personal life, and so I burnt out. I burnt out, and so I actually ended up leaving the car industry and going and working on a cruise ship for 5 months. Right, I was going from earning like 6 figures to earning £1,000 a month on a cruise ship, right? But at the end of the day, I did that for a reason, because it gave me that time to find myself. It released me of all that pressure and sort of concern over what I wanted to do. I could just see the world. And so that then made me realize that there's more to life than that career, right? And so then I ended up coming to the US, working for Walt Disney. I've had 8 years. I mean, technically, I still work for Disney now, although we're furloughed. But I joined Disney in October 2011. And so again, I did that because I wanted to work for a company that puts customers, or guests as Disney call it, first. You know, I don't believe they did that with their cast. I can tell you that, unfortunately, it's not always the case, right? Because it's just a big business, a multi-billion-dollar business, and at the end of the day, the dollar. So again, I got frustrated there, which is why I ended up going into the really finding myself with personal growth, and that started with Simon Sinek's Golden Circle and getting down to like the why of things, and from there it's just again an evolution. But I'm still in progress. You know, we're still growing, still work in progress, and
evolving.
Always will be. Yeah.
Now, what's it like working for Disney, which is arguably one of the older and most recognized brands in the world? Working for a company, I mean, you go to Disney, you see all the fun, or the impression we get is all the fun and all that stuff coming from conservative UK and conservative mindset and white collar jobs and things like that. That switch, was it like? And for you who had seen it right up to the corporate ladder, was it like now working in what I perceive as a fun environment?
It's so there's two sides to it, Aaron. I mean, obviously the guest base inside the parks and the hotels and water parks and everything are obviously fun, right? All of that, the hotels, because that's what it's about. It's about delivering that magic to the guests. So almost nothing is too much trouble in that side of it. I've always worked, or most of the time worked behind the scenes, right? So worked in what we call backstage. So in the sort of cogs that keep the machine going. It's not quite as magical in that side of it, in all honesty, because it's more of a business, right? And so that's the business side of it. And one of the things I found and still find difficult with that is because of the pure size of the organization. If you want to make one decision, it's got to go through like so many hoops that it can take ages to actually decision, right? Whereas when I was running car dealerships, general manager of car dealerships, if I wanted to change something today, I did it, right? And so, and if it didn't work, guess what? I'd change it tomorrow, all right? Yep. In the big organizations, the corporate world, you can't do that, and that can be frustrating. But again, it's a learning curve, right? And you need to understand that, and when you understand it, you can work around it. But there's definitely the element where, you know, when people say who do you work for and you say Disney, a smile comes on their face straight away, right? And I do like that side of it. Yeah. And I will treat our employees, we call them cast members, I treat them as gold, right? Because as I've said earlier, to me, people are the lifeblood of every business. And the way we'll get that business going is to deliver that excellent service to our guests. Yeah. Yep. Our cast members, to our employees. So we need to really make sure they're happy and that they're delivering that service. And how do you do that? Well, that's where leadership comes in. So you need that leadership skills and leadership ability to be able to do that. And if you get all those right, the business side of it is fine. But again, the mentality of a lot of people is they don't want to do that. They think about cutting the costs. And again, at the moment with COVID, it was interesting that I'm not sure, I can't remember who it was now on on the gratitude said that they had like an amazing first 6 months of the year. Most businesses, first things they cut, right? When in this sort of environment, the first things they cut is development and training for their team. And they should be increasing the development and training for their team. You know, the leaders, the executives, and again, individuals should be investing in time and money in their personal growth and development. I know you know that, but I just want to say.
Yeah, exactly. No, but wait, it's good to hear it from you, sort of, just because of the people who you're listening. So, who are listening, why do you think that's the case? Why don't the corporate organizations get it?
Because
why is that message not loud enough that the best investment you can do is actually investment in yourself and an investment in people?
Correct. And it's exactly that, because they don't see it as that word. They see it as cost.
Okay.
Cost, not investment.
Nice.
And it truly is an investment, because if you invest that time and money, and again, it's not always money, it could just be time.
Time, yeah.
Invest that time in your people, the return on that investment will be exponentially higher than saving a few dollars or a few pounds here and there. It truly will, because you're going to create more loyal employees, more productive employees. They're going to develop into better leaders. Your leaders are going to be better. So everybody's happy at work. You get less absenteeism. You get less sickness. So all of those costs, you're going to save a bundle on those costs as well.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But it's that mindset needs changing. They see it as a cost. They don't see it as an investment. Because they're looking at the immediate returns. They're not looking at the returns down the line. Right?
Yeah.
So they're looking at results. They're not going back to that behaviors, actions, habits, right? The people side of it.
Interesting. So you mentioned that result of the survey, and I remember you mentioning at the summit, I think it's about 85% of employees are disengaged, and how it affects efficiency and labor. Why such a high percentage of employees, in your opinion?
There's several reasons, and I think again it goes back to our teenage years, right? This is I've gone and done the research and done interviews and so on to try and track where does it happen, and in our teenage years we're not taught how to think, we're not taught to dream, we're taught to play it safe, right? Get a safe career. Well, guess what? There is no such thing as a safe career anymore, right?
Yep.
It doesn't exist. But we're taught not to take risks because we're seeing that failure is bad. Well, failure is good. It's the only way you grow. And I would tell my teams at Disney, I still tell them now, if you don't fail, you're not trying hard enough. They look at me as if I've got two heads and like, you want me to fail? I went, yes, but I want you to learn from it.
Failure, yeah.
And then we'll go again. All right. But if you never fail, you're not stretching, you're not trying hard enough. And so because we're not taught that and taught to think about what we truly want and what our purpose and passion and strengths are, we end up drifting into careers that we don't really want to go in. We've probably done it because our parents said, hey, this is a good career, or our parents are in that career, so we follow that. Or, we're told that hey, this job will pay you well, like car sales, right? It paid pretty well. And as you said, I had a new car every 3 to 6 months. Right? Now I've got the car I've got now, I've had the longest of my whole life. It's 3 years old. I buy it myself now. But the thing is, you can go into that, and then you get into that trap, because then we tend to live to our means, right? We tend to, whatever we earn, we tend to spend it. And so we get into that, and then very often to pivot and go into a career or a job where our passion is, it won't necessarily pay the money we need straight away. So we don't want to take that loss, so we stay with what we've got. And then we end up regretting it. And there's the number one, I've got a statement here saying the number one regret of the dying.
Yep.
Right, is that they wish they'd had the courage to live a life true to themselves rather than one that they felt was expected of them.
Wow.
All right, that's the number one regret of the dying. And
can you just say it again? I want someone to just put it on the notes just so that they can get it. The number one regrets of the dying.
So this is what they say. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself rather than what I felt was expected of me.
Wow.
All right. So people are trying to live up to expectations that they think other people have got on them. Right. They may have on them, but they may not. And some of the teenagers we spoke to over the weekend said that they struggle because they're trying to reach perfection. They're trying to please people because their expectations that they put on themselves are high because of that.
Yep.
And they're not good at sharing their feelings and talking, and nobody actually listens to them, even if they did. So therefore, again, as I say, we go into our careers, we go into industries that we're not truly passionate about, and therefore we turn up for work. You know, if we're feeling a bit off, we'll call out sick. And you know, if the grass looks greener on the other side, we've got no loyalty where we are, so we'll switch. Right? And grass is green wherever you look. All right, it's never greener on one side or the other.
Yep.
But we don't, and then we get there and we go, it's actually no better over here, right?
Yep.
Again, then we're disengaged. And when we're disengaged, the productivity levels go down too. You know, and so from an organization point of view, what they don't understand is that investing that time and money in developing their people and hanging on to their people, creating that loyalty and that happiness and satisfaction will increase their profits, right? Because their costs will actually come down by spending money on that investment. And that's what they need to see. But think about it again, if people watching are not in business, if it's just themselves, if your employer isn't doing that for you, do it for yourself.
Yep.
Right? It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It doesn't have to. Right? And very often, you know, the programs that you put on, that I put on, and so on, they're not a lot of money.
Yep.
Yes, you're going to invest some time and you're going to have to do some work, but you need to if you want to get on. You've got to change what you're doing today if you want different results tomorrow.
For tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, in the last 2 years, I've seen you go from trying to help people in their 40s and 50s who are coming to that age where they're wondering, what am I going to do with life? And you created programs for them. And then you've gone right round and say, you know what? Way before you get to that point, let's sort this problem out at the teenage years. Just talk me through your thinking and what led you there.
Yeah, you're right, because when we were at that summit in October 2018, so not even 2 years ago, my program was called Your Third Quarter, and it was aimed at people like myself that were coming into the third quarter of their life, who were disengaged, and these stats that we've said, to say, okay, you've still got time to change your life. And while that's still a very relevant problem, and it's still a problem that I can fix, right? And I can still work with that age group.
Yeah.
As I started to look at it, it was more about, well, where does this come from, right? Why are we in this situation? Because that's a symptom, right? And you know that there's symptoms, but for every symptom, there's actually a cause.
Yeah.
And if you just treat the symptom, it will keep coming back, right? Because the cause is still there. Yeah. So I started looking back and was like, okay, well, let's look at the different age groups in Disney that I was working with, right? And where am I seeing that? And it got to like the millennial age, where everybody, or anybody who's not a millennial, like throws criticism at saying that they're not loyal, that they are entitled, that all of these things. And it's like, well, maybe that's the case, but why? Why is it, right? And so then you start tracking it back, and as I went back, again, I realized that our youngsters up to the age of, say, 11, they're the best learners. They don't have fear, right? They don't know any fear. They don't know any limitations. They don't have, right? They'll dream as big as anybody. And then when they get to 11, 12 and sort of going into high school and so on, it disappears. And why? Well, it disappears because of the way the environments that they're experiencing, the parents, the teachers, the uncles, aunts, whatever, and as it goes even into the workplace, you know, we're telling them, hey, don't get ideas above your station, right? You know, how many times have you heard that when you go into work and they go, listen, you're like an entry level, don't start trying to like change things. It's like, okay. Well, if we always do what we've always done, we'll always got what we've always got, right? So we need to change it. But we're teaching these teenagers not to think for themselves. We're saying, okay, yeah, you dreamt when you were young, but listen, you're grown up now, so stop that, put that away, right? And just follow this stuff now. And so I realized that that's where the challenge is, and that if I can address it there, all right. And again, I'm not knocking the school systems and so on, because they are what they are. They've got their regulations, and teachers do a fantastic job. My family back in England are mostly teachers, so I've got a lot of respect for teachers. But we need something to supplement that, and that's what I want to be. Right. So I'm going to supplement that. I'm going to teach them leadership skills. I'm going to teach them soft skills. I'm going to teach them mindset. I'm going to teach them confidence and self-belief, because they've got a lack of that, because we knock it out of them, not physically, but mentally we knock, well, sometimes physically, right, but mentally we knock it out. By telling them they can't do it. All right. And oh, well, don't do that because you're not really good enough at that. All right. So try this because I think you'll be good at that. We shouldn't do that. And also then part of the program is saying, what are your strengths? And now, okay, so think about your purpose, think about your passion, think about your strengths. How can you utilize that? How can you find a job that will pay you well for doing that stuff?
Yeah.
And so if we can do that, well, it's not if, it's when we can do that, they're going to go into college knowing what they want to do, right? To university to do the right thing. They're going to go into a career that they want to go into, that they know they can make a difference, that they want to follow a cause, right? They've got a purpose. They want to follow a purpose. So if we can align those and put that all in harmony, then the corporate world is going to get better employees, better leaders coming through. It will then wash through the corporate world, right? The youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. And my tagline is develop tomorrow's leaders today. Don't wait until they're in a leadership position. Develop them today, because if you wait, when they get in that leadership position, they're just going to be so pre-programmed by the existing leaders. Nothing's going to change.
Can you tie the journey you've been through, the journey of purpose you've been through, and even just how you've come about the summit to the book we've been studying all year, Think and Grow Rich? What similarities? What do you think you can tie to that study, and how that's helped produce what you've just produced?
Well, I mean, all of the principles, the 13 principles in that book are all come into play, without a doubt. I still think the biggest thing is desire, is understanding what you want from life, right? And creating that desire and living with that desire till it becomes white hot and an all-consuming obsession. Right? It has to have that. But then you have to have the faith in what you're doing and the faith in yourself, right? In other words, that's belief in you. And then we're starting studying again persistence tonight. Persistence is something again, because here's the thing: when you're stretching, you're going to get knocked down. So how many times you get knocked down is how many times you get back up on what you learn from it, right? So that's there. And then imagination. Everything was once thought impossible until it was done. I shared a story and I have a five keys to developing young adults, and one of the stories I put out, or one of it spells youth, YOUTH, and the O is for outlook. And I shared the story of the 4-minute mile, and I think it was 1954 from memory when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. From the 1800s, everybody had thought it was impossible. No human could run a 4-minute mile, right? He did the 4-minute mile. Then it was about 46 days later that another guy broke it. And he beat Roger Bannister. Well, nobody knows this, or remembers this guy's name. They remember Roger Bannister because he was the first one that did it. But the thing is, the outlook had changed. It was now possible because somebody had done it. And then a year later, 3 athletes in the same race broke the 4-minute barrier. Right? And when I was growing up, and we had Seb Coe and Steve Ovett, and they were breaking it and battling all the time. That mark was coming down and down, but it's because people believed it. So imagination is huge. you'll have an idea come into your mind and birth it, right? Write it down, follow it through, start adding on to it and saying, instead of saying yes, but this will never happen, say yes, and I could do this, and I could do that. All right. And so you build on that idea and that imagination grows. And then the power of the mastermind as well, to be honest, that's bringing people together, and you bring people together. And as you said, when we were at that summit in New York in 2018, excuse me, just the conversations we were having elevated our thinking.
Yep.
Increased our awareness, elevated our thinking, and suddenly other things happen. And with this summit, it started as a little idea in my mind. I said, maybe I could do this, right? I knew that Zoom memberships had gone from 40 million to 200 million almost overnight with COVID. So obviously people are used to Zoom now. So I want to do this, right? And originally I thought, it's going to be like maybe 5 or 6 hours worth of content. It'll be easy. It just kept multiplying and multiplying. People would then come into me and say, "Hey, can I talk?" Or I want to learn more about it, and it just evolved. So the principles in that book are phenomenal, and everybody, I believe everybody should read it. Everybody should study it.
Yep.
Don't study it alone. All right, go through it in a group.
Go through it with a group. That's it. And the thing about it, we've been on this study for almost 3-4 years now. Actually, we started the study before we went to the summit in 2018. Pretty much going through with our coach almost every single day. That we've picked it up again this year, and that's the thing. Could you talk about why people think the difference between reading a book and actually studying a book?
Yeah, and so I'll tell you, for the first 51 years of my life, I just read books. And I only really read books when I was at the poolside on holiday, and I'd take like 4 or 5 books and I'd just sit there and read books, and that was it. But here's the thing. Let me ask the viewers a question, right? What's the last book you read, and how much of it can you remember? What were the key points from that book? Right? Now, it could be a fiction book, it could be a factual book, it should be a personal growth book, right? But how many points do you remember from that book? How many? Think of even the last summit you went to, the last conference, or the last Facebook Live Aaron did, right?
Yeah.
Or anybody else that you've looked. How much of that do you remember?
Do you retain? Yeah.
It's probably like 10-15%. All right. But the thing is, when you study something and you really dig deep into it, you'll see things there that you didn't see first time out.
Yeah.
You do it again and you'll see something else. Or the situation that you're in your life has changed, and therefore you're looking at it with a different perspective.
Yeah.
All right. So it elevates your thought process and your awareness. So studying is much, much different to reading. All right. You read the newspaper. Well, we don't read newspapers anymore, right? But you read an article on the internet, and then it's all right. You'll scroll through Facebook. You're not really paying attention. But if you stop and you pay attention, I now use pen and paper. Right? I never used to. But if you use pen and paper, when you write stuff down, it's transferring it from your mind into reality because it's down on paper.
That's my experience. Yeah.
Down on paper. And so then you review it. Right? But again, if I write that stuff down and then I just put that paper in the drawer and never look at it again, it's not really done anything. All right. So study it, learn it, and then apply it. All right. And that's where we're at now with our workshop that Aaron and I are doing with Giroux, is we're implementing. All right.
Implementation.
Yeah.
Implementation time, application. It's self-analysis and applying. Self-analysis, inventory, application. And that's where the real experience, you don't know what you know without having put it to experience, applying it, self-analyze, apply, put experience, and mentorship.
Correct.
And mentorship. And that's something you and I are benefiting first with our one-to-one with our colleagues in all our studies, which we have one tonight. Only God knows when I'm going to sleep again tonight. And and just consistently going through it daily. So How is it possible to create and pursue purpose, vision, and strategy? That's something you talked about. I think one of your books, you were talking about 10 steps to freedom.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the purpose in your why is your first thing, right? You need to understand who you are. And I have a program I wrote, well, probably 2.5 years ago now. It's called My Way, which is Master Your Who Are You. And again, it's based around Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, where what most people do is they look at what they do, they look at how they do it, but they never look at why they do it. And that's organizations exactly the same. Whereas what you need to do is start with the why and then work out. Right. So why and then how and what just happens anyway. Right. So, but why do you do what you do? And part of that purpose, part of the process of understanding your purpose and your why is looking back at your life and looking back at the emotions. Right. So events happen and you feel a particular way. Right. You feel happy or you feel sad. But what was it about it that made you feel happy, or what was it about it that made you feel sad? So on that program, I go back and I help people say, okay, well, let's pick 5 or 10 things that have happened significant in your life, and then dig deep into it. And you're going down into the emotions, and you go in that 5 or 7 levels of why deep, right? So yeah, I do that. Okay, why do you do that? Well, I do it because of this. Okay, well, why? And then why that, and why that? And then you get to it and you go, oh, okay, that's why. All right. And then what you do is you'll see a pattern coming out. And when I did this, it came out that my purpose and my why is to help people. And when I tried to help them and it didn't work, I felt sad. And when I tried to help them and it worked, I felt happy. Right? So it sounds simple, but again, we're not taught to dig deep into our emotions and feelings. We're taught to like bottle them up, right? And a lot of the teenagers I've spoken to over this weekend and in the research will say the same thing, and a lot of adults will say the same thing. They've got it bottled up and it's festering inside of them. Well, if you never release that, eventually it's going to blow, right? And that happens in sort of anxiety or depression or abuse, violence, whatever, and you don't want that. So we need to get to that source, and why is it? So once you know that, right, you know that why. And then it's the purpose is, well, what's your cause? What do you want to do with your life, right? What do you want to impact? So we have a contribution and we have an impact.
Yeah.
And we can contribute, and that contribution should cause an impact, and it does, because there's the law of cause and effect. Everything has a cause and an equal effect, right? So what's the cause that you want to pursue, and what's the impact you want it to have on society? And then you start aligning those two things, and then say, okay, so I want to do that. So let me give you an example of mine and how it's evolved. My why statement, the contribution I want to make is to add value to other people.
Yeah.
The impact is so that they can become the best versions of themselves. That's a broad sort of general sort of statement, right? And it needs to be, because then I can apply that to any situation. But what you see, what I'm doing with that, it's all about the people, right? So I want to add value to people. I want them to be the best version of themselves. I'm not saying I want them to be the best, right? This is where people go wrong, because there is only one best. What I want to do is be the best of them and keep improving, right? And get better at whatever level they are, right? You take a football team, right? And you've got the superstar in the football team, but you've got 10 other players. Well, they might not be as best as the superstar, but you want them to be the best that they can be and to keep getting better. And you do that with coaching, right? And it's essentially what I want people to do. But they've got to find out what they want to do and why they want to do it. And so then it was like, okay, well, I need to then create a vision of what I want to create. And so my vision is that I want every child to have the chance of a college or university education, irregardless of their finances, right? So, that again is saying there's so many teenagers that have got the potential and the desire and the ability to go to university or to go to college, but they just can't afford it. So they end up giving up on their dream and going and getting a job elsewhere. but I want to be able to grant scholarships for kids to be able to do that, right? So that's my grand vision. I want everybody, in other words, I want everybody to do what they truly want to do.
Yeah.
And not have any restrictions in terms of finances that are going to stop them doing it. All right. Now, again, that's a grand vision, because I said everybody, right? I didn't say everybody in Orlando, right? Or everybody in Leicester, everybody in the world. So you're creating a grand vision. So you've got your purpose, you've got your vision, and then your strategy is, okay, well, what's the first step, right? What do I need to do? And so then you just keep working it out. And you've heard me say on Drew's calls, I was always hung up about the how, right? So yeah, I want to do it. Well, how am I going to do it, right? Doesn't matter. You just start. And what happened, because you don't know what you don't know what's around the corner. So just start. Don't think ahead that way. Maybe think one or two, maybe
steps. Yeah. Right? And Paul Martinelli would tell us to suspend knowing how it's going to happen.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Good stuff. Now, what you're saying brings me to DISC assessments and strengths tests. How important is that? Because I don't know if this happens to you on your coaching calls, but this happens a lot. When I get my clients to do the DISC or get them to do their strengths, everybody's like, wow. It's like some of them would actually go ahead and say, this is a wizard, this is a witch. But then the reality of it is they've been walking around without actually even knowing themselves. So you can see the danger in our world. Now, from how do you think, especially for us as coaches, what more do we need to do to get this message out there? To at the crux of what we want to do is helping people, and it's about people actually first discovering themselves. So is there any more we can do with DISC? Is there any more we can do with strengths? How can we actually get people, open them up to actually see who they need to be and begin to at least make the next step towards that journey?
Yeah, definitely.
Got any thoughts on that?
I think 100% everybody should do a DISC assessment.
Yeah,
100%. And I also think they should pay a consultant that's trained in DISC to review it with them.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, again, what happens, they get a report, they say, oh yeah, that's CD or whatever. They'll
that's it.
Put it in the drawer and that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a waste of time. So DISC, and with DISC, again, I always tell people, it's not about profiling, right? It's not that we call it personality assessments. It's more, I say it's more of a communication, right? And human behavior. Because it's not saying, I'm not putting you in a pigeonhole and saying you're a D, right? You're dominant. You're just decisive. You don't want to wait for anything.
Driver.
Yeah, maybe at one time, right? But you could also be an I. You can be energetic and exciting and sort of influential. You could be really conservative and cautious at times, or supportive as the S, or really want all the details as a C. We are all a blend of all four of those styles. And on any one particular day, to be honest, we could be any one of those four, dependent on the environment we're in, the situation we're in. So what the DISC study is, and again, it's human behavior study. It's so that you can identify, oh, actually, I'm being more of a D at the moment, and maybe that's right for who I'm talking to, right? So it helps you identify your audience as well. And think about this in a family situation, right? If say a family's got 4 kids, doesn't matter the number, but those kids could all be displaying different communication styles, right?
Yeah.
If you say to them, all right, kids, you're all going to bed at 9 o'clock tonight, right? Are all 4 of them going to go to bed at 9 o'clock without any? No, they're not, right? Because you've sent the message, but they've received it in different ways.
Yeah.
So again, it's understanding your kids, and if you're at work, understanding your employees, or understanding your co-workers, or understanding your spouse. If I had done DISC assessments with my spouses, I would still be married. Because I would have learned to communicate and connect.
Yep.
So it's huge, right? Because you can then realize it and say, while I'm more of a CD, so I'm a task-oriented person, if my spouse or my kids or my co-workers are more people-oriented, I could get frustrated with that and they could get frustrated with me. But if I understand that, I can then change the message or the actual, the message itself is the same, but it's the way you communicate it, right? So think about an Apple, a Mac and a Windows PC, right? They talk different languages. Mm-hmm. And so if you've got Microsoft Excel, all right, or Office, you get an Office program for a Mac, you get Office program for a Windows. If you try and put a Windows one onto a Mac, it's not going to read it, even though the content is the same inside.
Yep.
It doesn't understand it, right? And that's the easiest way I can think of with DISC is that, you know, you may understand the message you're putting over there, but how many times, and again, we'll ask the listeners this, how many times have you said something to somebody or you've sent them a text or an email and they've come back with a completely different perception of what it is that you said?
You were saying, yeah.
And it gets totally misread. That's because we're not connecting. We don't understand their communication styles, right? So that's DISC is huge with that. And strengths, you know, I'm probably a little bit controversial in some ways on this, because I believe we've got strengths and we've got weaknesses, but in the middle we've got opportunities. And I believe that we should focus on our strengths and then work on our opportunities and forget our weaknesses, because we're never going to improve those to even an opportunity, never a strength. So if you're not good at something, find somebody else that can do that for you, right?
Outsource it. Yeah.
Outsource it. Yeah. But again, don't forget your strengths to work on your opportunities, and definitely don't forget them to work on your weaknesses, because if you don't focus on your strengths, then they go down.
Yeah.
So you have to focus on your strengths, but you have to understand that. So what do you do that doesn't feel like work, right? What do you do that just comes to you second nature? That's a strength. All right. What do you do where, okay, you have to work at it a little bit, but when you do so and you concentrate on it, you generally get the job done? That's an opportunity.
Yeah.
What do you do that you just hate doing it, and whatever you do, you're never going to do a good job? Well, that's a weakness. Get rid of it. Right. So that awareness is crucial. You need to know that, and then you need to build on that. And again, a coach will help you with that.
Yep. Good. As we begin to kind of try and round up, what would you say to adults who are in their later years? And I'm asking this because of your experience also with working with such. In their later years, right now, they feel stuck on a job and things like that. Is it too late to discover purpose? And if not, what helped to make that shift?
Yeah, it's never too late. You need to. It's your level of awareness, right? Because you're doing the best you can at the present time based on your level of awareness.
Yeah.
And so, once you're aware that you're stuck and that you're not happy, then that's a good thing, right? Because it means that you know that you need to do something about it. Mm-hmm. Well, the key is doing something about it, right? Because just deciding, well, first thing, understanding it is one thing. Deciding you're going to do something about it is another. But neither of those really mean anything unless you actually do it.
You have to do it, yeah.
So do it. So what you need to, again, it comes back to that purpose, vision, and then you start on your strategy. So what do you want to do? What do you enjoy doing? And then how can you monetize that? Is that starting your own business? So does it start with a side hustle that you build up and then eventually you go into it? Or is it just that you want something to fulfill your life? So it's not necessarily a job, but you're just not getting satisfaction or fulfillment. Well, that could be a volunteer opportunity, right? So go and do something in your community or do something in your church. And what is it that you enjoy doing? Can you do that? Would that do it? Or is it a career change? And just understanding what it is that you need to do, why you need to do it, and then taking that step and stepping out and doing something about it. It's there was a thing, I can't remember which program it was on the other day that I heard it, but it's talking about stepping in, stepping up, and stepping out. Right, so you got to step into your problem. Right. Actually, so stepping in is realizing I'm stuck. Right. I'm not enjoying life. I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. So stepping up is like, let's do something about it. and then stepping out is now I'm going to actually make it work, right? So you have to do that, but there's no one's going to do it for you, right? People can help you, like myself, other coaches, other mentors, and you need other people, right? You need to associate with
outside help. I call it. You need outside help.
Correct. But ultimately, there's one sentence which is 8 words of 2 letters each word, and it's if it is to be, it is up to me.
Up to me, yeah. Say that again, guys. Did you get that? If it is to be, it is up to me. Right. It's still an I thing. Because we can bring all the awareness to you. If you don't apply it, if you don't take action, you're not going to see any transformation, right?
Correct.
That's key. Let's talk about this concept of failure. Why have people made failure such a big thing that literally paralyzes them? And I know you make that statement also. I say it differently, but I think you say something like if you don't fail, you're not trying hard enough. Could you just possibly you may be able to say it better? This concept of failure for people to actually understand that failure is actually success's companion.
Correct. And no success happens without failure.
Yep.
It truly doesn't. And I think it boils down to fear. Right? Fear is false emotions appearing real, right? So false emotions appearing real is fear. And it's the fear, there's a fear of failure, but that's just on the surface level. So why is there a fear of failure? Well, it's a fear of what other people will think of you, right? Or what other people will say of you, or the fear that you're not worthy, you're not good enough, right? You're not capable.
Yep.
So it's that scarcity mindset. And you probably talk about scarcity and abundance with your coaching client program.
You're touching in on all my subjects today.
Right.
Go on.
So here's a quote I used from Henry Ford, and it's on my instant messenger on Disney that it has been for like 8 years. And it's whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're usually right.
Yep.
Right. So whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're usually right. And here's the thing, what it's saying is if you think you can't do it, then you won't ever do it.
Yep.
And failure is only final if you quit.
Wow.
But if you need to keep going, right? And you need to keep doing it. Edison. He took him 10,000 attempts to create the light bulb.
Yep.
Which means that 9,999 times, technically, he failed.
Yep.
Didn't fail. What he was doing was learning.
Yeah.
Right. So a failure is you learning what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so see failure as a learning experience, a learning opportunity. And then you go, okay, so that doesn't work. So now it can work. And it was the same thing in the car sales, right? We would say, salespeople would say they close 1 in 3. In reality, they don't, because they don't get the names of everybody. But let's say you close 1 in 10 people. So every 10 people you speak to, you sell 1 car.
Yeah.
That means that 9 times you've technically failed, right? But what I would say is each no, it just means your next yes is 1 step closer.
Yeah.
All right. So failure, you have to, when you're stretching and when you're growing, you will fail, right? And the thing is, you got to stop, reflect on it, review it, learn, and then go again. And let's take it back to like our first failures.
Yeah.
First failures when we're born, or a bit after we're born, we start to crawl, right? When you see a baby crawling, sometimes they fall flat on their face, right?
Yeah.
As they're trying to go and they stumble and they fall flat on their face. And as parents, what's our initial reaction? It's like, oh, right. The baby doesn't care. The baby's learning, right? And then they start to walk, and they'll take a step and they'll fall. But do they stop?
No, they keep trying.
Right? They keep going.
Get up again.
Right? Yep. They keep going. And then eventually they walk, right? And then they start to run. and then they start to ride a bike. And so all of these things, and we're encouraging them as they do that.
Yeah.
Right? And then it gets to a stage and we go, okay, now don't do that because you're going to get hurt. But our reaction is automatically, oh, be careful. Don't hurt yourself. Right? And so we're instilling that fear of failure at a young age into people. So that again, that's where I think it comes back to. But fear is the thing. So just get rid of that. Abundance mindset. You can do whatever you put your mind to. Yeah, you've got to apply that abundance mindset. Put your mind, when you put your mind to anything, you can make it come true, but you need those people around you to back you up and to pull you up. And that's why that mastermind group, that's why that inner circle is so important, right? Don't associate with people that are going to drag you down and tell you that you're not worthy, you're not good enough. All right, move those people out of your circle. It doesn't mean you'd like never ever talk to them again, but you don't have them as your confidants, right?
Yeah.
You have people in your circle that are going to believe in you, they're going to encourage you to believe in yourself, and they're going to that yes and principle instead of the yes but, no but, and they're going to pull you forward. Right. So nothing is impossible. Nothing's impossible if you put your mind to it, right? But you just got to get the right resources around you and tools to be able to make it.
And keep going for it. Let's tabernacle around maybe possibly the last theme or subject. So where you've talked a lot about how these habits are formed. I want us to talk about habits. How do we form these bad habits, these fear habits that stop us? Where does it come from? And why do they now become so hard to break?
Well, and habits, most of the habits come from the environment that we're in. All right. So whether that's your family environment, your community, your workplace, whatever it is, the people you hang around with at the pub or whatever, right? It's that you become the product of your environment, and those habits become, we tend to accept that as being the norm, right? And we accept things as they are and say, okay, well, we can't change that, because change takes work,
time.
Time. And probably some failure along the way. So we're frightened of doing that. So you can think as well, and this is a concept again from Think and Grow Rich, right? With the negativity and the positivity filling up the mind. The negativity naturally comes in, right? If the mind, say this water bottle is the mind, right? There's positive is the water at the bottom, and the air at the top is the negative. If I take the water out, it doesn't fill up with more water. Naturally, it fills up with more air, right? The negativity fills it up. So I actually have to take the top off and fill water in it to force the air out. Back in. And so bad habits come automatically, right? Because they're there.
Even without asking for it, even without inviting it.
Yes, they don't have to be invited. The good habits have to be invited, and they have to be worked on. And there's different schools of thought about how long a habit takes. I think the average is actually 66 days, right? Some habits depends on the scope of the habit, right? But some habits will take
close to 90 days, some 21, some 66.
Exactly. And some will take years. Think of people that are suffering from addictions, right? How quickly did they get addicted to drugs or alcohol or whatever? Really quickly. Right? Smoking. Really quickly, it became a habit. How long does it take to break that habit?
Almost a lifetime.
John Maxwell says everything worthwhile is uphill, right? The good habits take time and effort and commitment. The bad habits, it's like you're going down the hill, on freewheeling and you're going downhill. It's easy, right? So that's my I think my best way of putting across the difference of good and bad habits.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. I just want to say a big thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for so much learning. It's always a pleasure listening to you. Thank you so much, Chris, and we'll catch up again very soon. God bless you, everybody. That's Chris.
Thank you.
Chris, thank you so much. Thank you very much.
All right, bye.